Hello everybody, welcome to the MaffmanJones movie channel. I am your host as always, John Maffio, and today's feature movie that we're talking about is Sonic the Hedgehog, directed by Jeff Fowler, and it's an adaptation of the video game franchise that people have loved for decades. It's finally here, it's out there, and is it any good? I feel like we may be in a weird transitional phase for video game adaptations in relation to films, because video game movies have been known for a long time to just be the worst. I wanted to get that in there because Ben Schwartz, John Ralphio, I had to. I wouldn't say that Pokemon Detective Pikachu was a great movie, but it was a good way to really get like a running start out of what people would say is a big rut in this particular genre of movies. Because it was well done. It had a really good cast. Ryan Reynolds, who's a big star right now, and it had a really good thing going for it. And I think very similarly about Sonic the Hedgehog, where it's definitely not a great movie. It's not going to take home any awards or really be revered, but it does a really good job at being a fun family movie that caters to all audiences, and is very accessible, and it has a really fun protagonist and main character in Sonic the Hedgehog. And I have to say, I mean, others have said it online too, but the redesign that they decided to do because of the outpouring rage and fire that consumed the internet because of how disgustingly, horrifically, hilariously terrible he looked originally, that design, just look at that. Watching the movie and reflecting back on it retrospectively, watching that movie with that design, it would have made it inherently worse. And I wouldn't have been able to connect, most importantly, connect with Sonic as a character. The redesign, not only is it more faithful to like the actual look of the character, but you're able to connect with him more because there's more, I guess there's more, in a weird way, even though he looks more cartoony, he looks more expressive. Even though that special effects studio shut down, unfortunately, and a lot of people were laid off and lost their jobs, the work they put in to make this happen, can't thank them enough, because it's unheard of in the industry for them to do something like this. There's not enough thanks for that. And coming back around to the transitional phase I think we're in for video game movies, I think this movie further pushes what Pikachu was doing and bringing an accessibility for major audiences, because as I'm recording this movie had a $68 million opening, or that's what it's projected to make for this 4-day holiday weekend. And that's incredible. Maybe, just maybe, video game movies in the 2020s, this upcoming decade, will have the impact that Marvel movies had from 2010 to 2019. Maybe, just maybe. But mentioning accessibility again, I think it's a very important word for this movie. It works for all audiences. I didn't truly appreciate the Sonic aspect of the movie and the aspect between the interactivity between James Marsden's character, Donut Lord, as Sonic calls him, and Sonic the Hedgehog. But kids will love that. If I was 11 or 10, 9, 8 years old watching this movie, I would love Sonic. But what older audiences will truly appreciate is Jim Carrey's performance as Dr. Robotnik, Mr. Eggman, the antagonist of this movie, where I guess Jeff Fowler or the crew gave him the direction as an actor to just be Ace Ventura for an hour and a half in all of his scenes, because he is hamming it up, he's chewing scenery, and I couldn't stop laughing. They found a way to make Jim Carrey's zany 90s type of exaggerated cartoon performances work in this movie. And the movie is pretty cartoony already, so I guess it only enhances the cartoonist nature of this movie. The plot is pretty simple. It's a basic road trip movie between a happy-go-lucky goody-two-shoes cop and Sonic the Hedgehog's anime character going from point A to point B. But what really makes this movie watchable and accessible and enjoyable and entertaining for everybody is the performances from Jim Carrey, especially for older, and for younger, this Sonic the Hedgehog character, who was voiced incredibly by Ben Schwartz. I mean, I'm no expert at being a kid nowadays, but I'm pretty confident that kids that go with their families to watch this movie are going to adore it. I just think Sonic as a character, he's talkative, garrulous, and could be frustratingly annoying, but that's done purposely. But he's also kind of charming for how annoying he could be. And adults, I could see adults and parents maybe having the minor gripe of being annoyed by the character, but the whole purpose is that he is annoying. And you kind of get endeared by his character along the way when you learn more about him and how lonely he is. And that's where a lot of the theme of friendship comes in between him and James Marsden's character, who does a good job in this movie, by the way, being like that goody two-shoes cop who is just trying to make a difference. And there's a subplot with his wife's sister, where the sister is trying to get James Marsden's wife to break up with him. And that's one part of the movie that didn't make any sense to me, because I understand trying to have conflict in your movie, and if the reasoning made sense for the character, I wouldn't mind, but it makes no sense because they literally go out of their way to tell you that James Marsden's character is one of the best people you could possibly be with. There's no reason at all. It's just stupid. There's also a handful of cringeworthy jokes that don't work for kids or adults, in my opinion, and I also didn't care for the product placement. It's hilarious in its own little way, but I could have done without it, but I understand why it's in there. It's so blatant. And they literally use taglines and slogans from these companies. It's one of those, hey, honey, look, I'm on Zillow. But at this point, I'm just starting to nitpick. I do really feel like this movie is a really enjoyable, solid family film. It's going to work for most audiences, in my opinion, even if you don't care or really have any knowledge of Sonic the Hedgehog. If you're taking your kids to see this movie, you're just going to see this on your own. It doesn't really matter to me. It's mostly for families, but I think there is something here for everybody. It's just, it doesn't lean more on the childish side. It's not trying to have dark or mature themes, at least not yet. Maybe down the road in the sequel they could. Or it could just stick to being a light, fluffy family thing. But that's fine. What they went for, they executed very well. And you really can't go wrong with watching this in a theater if you're a parent or if you're an adult just trying to relive memories from Sonic days that you used to play on your Sega Genesis. Going back around and connecting this for myself personally, this reminds me of a movie like The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle from 2000 with actors like Piper Perabo and Robert De Niro, who play Fearless Leader, where I watched that movie and I enjoyed it for Rocky and Bullwinkle as animated characters in a real-life setting. And I only really knew Robert De Niro for movies like that and Meet the Parents for years. And then it finally came back around to learning when I got older what Robert De Niro was really famous for as an actor and his art in performances and what he's done for years, starting with like Mean Streets and the Godfather films and all that. So kids today are going to go into this movie and probably grew up very fondly having the memory of this movie, and also probably knowing Jim Carrey for nothing else but Dr. Robotnik. And then maybe, hopefully years from now, when they get older, watching movies like The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Liar, Liar, Bruce Almighty, and being like, wow, now I understand where his performance came from. But I actually honestly recommend Sonic the Hedgehog, and I hope, as I mentioned before, that this is another stepping stone for what could be a decade full of flourishing video game movie adaptations. We'll have to see. But, of course, now I want to know from all you boys and gals, what did you think of Sonic the Hedgehog? If you've seen it, let me know in the comments down below. Did you enjoy it like I did for what it was, a fun family flick? Did you want more out of it? If you didn't like this movie, what did you want to see from it that would have made it more enjoyable for yourself? Of course, as always, if you enjoyed watching my face talk about movies for the past few minutes, you could like this video, you could subscribe if you haven't already, and you'll also ring that bell so you'll never miss a video from me ever again, because notifications are the thing now, baby. I'm John Maffio. Thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys very soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Hasta la vista, baby. Ha-ha. Ha-ha.